Hey everyone, and welcome to the sixth episode of the Premodern Showdown series. I'm Michael Hoyp. I am joined tonight again with Flint Espel.
Hey everybody.
And tonight, as you can see, this is not the updated one. Let me quick update this. I thought I checked this beforehand. Sorry. Let me quick.
Off to an auspicious start.
Yes. I think I need to switch away and then go back. Oh, it looked like it was updated. Okay, sorry about that. So tonight we can see that we have our first match between Jared and David. And then later on tonight, we're going to be seeing Patrick versus Andrew. So for our first match, we're going to jump over to the decks right away and talk about what each of the players has available to them. If you're not familiar with the format, one of these decks is going to be banned for each player, and then they're going to pick between one of the remaining two, and they're going to play a best of three match with that. So for most of you, we're probably seen our intros a bunch of times, so we're going to go over these real quick. I think I'm going to say, okay, Angry Ghoul is a combo deck. It looks to put Hermit Druid in play, use its ability, and then it pretty much wins on that turn. So it's good against decks that can't remove a Hermit Druid, and it's worse against decks where they have the ability to quickly interact with that card. The Red Green Goblins deck for Jared is pretty standard Goblins list. We've seen the preference be for green as compared to black where it was previously, and the green provides Naturalize as compared to Duress was the alternate version. And other than that, it's a pretty standard tribal aggro deck, and it not only has the potential to explode with Goblin Lackey, but it has some grinding power with Goblin Matron and Goblin Ringleader. And Jared's third deck is his Esper Stiflenut deck, and so it has a lot of disruption in the form of Duress, Meddling Mage, and then counterspells, and it's just looking to resolve the 1 mana 12/12 with the combination of Stifle or Vision Charm. And it has the 4 Enlightened Tutors for typically to get the copy of the Dreadnought. So it's just a consistent version of the Stiflenut deck. All right, so Flint, do you want to talk about the 3 decks that are available to David?
Definitely. Which one are you throwing up first?
Draco Explosion is the first one.
Yep. So really simple here. The deck's just looking to disrupt early with discard, Hypnotic Spectre. Get the opponent to 16 or less life, and then use Insidious Dreams to get Erratic Explosion and Draco and win on the spot.
Okay, and the next one is Mana Flare.
Yep, so Mana Flare, cool combo deck. Basically looking to use Mana Flare to generate a bunch of mana to untap lands with Frantic Search and Early Harvest, and eventually Burning Wish for a Carevex Torch and torch the opponent out.
And then the last one that he has is the Opposition deck.
So the Opposition deck is your standard, get a bunch of creatures into play, use Opposition to tap down the opponent, but it also takes advantage of the Madness mechanic with Basking Rootwalla, with Circular Logic, and he uses Quiet Speculation to put additional flashback cards into the graveyard. It's a fun deck to watch, and it can be powerful if it gets up and running, but it's a little slow to start.
Okay, so let's jump over to our ban screen, and Flint and I are going to make some predictions on what we think is going to be banned for each player, based on what decks are available and what we think is the strategic choice. So, Flint, if you're Jared, what are you going to ban out of David's decks?
I think if I'm Jared, I probably banned the Draco Explosion deck just because it's the most disruptive to Jared's combo strategies and can even win on the spot against goblins. Um, it has more post board plans against goblins as well. But I think that's probably the deck that I would worry about the most.
Yeah, I agree. I think just the way that the access that Jared interacts with a lot of his decks, I think that Draco Explosion has the most counter to those. So that's what I would ban for Jared's perspective. So if I were David, I think it's a little bit more complicated. I guess you can kind of like think that your Draco Explosion deck is going to get banned. I think I'm going to ban. I think I would ban Hermit Druid because I think it's the fastest. But I mean, from David's perspective, if the Draco Explosion, I'm not happy for like goblins to play against the early harvest combo or the mana flare combo or even the opposition. Like I'm kind of scared against all of Jared's decks if I'm from David's position. No, especially thinking that my Draco deck is going to get banned. So I don't. I'm a little unsure for David's perspective, but I think I would ban Hermit Druid. But
It's funny you say that. I actually thought the exact same thing. I was just looking at the matchups and thinking that he doesn't have very good matchups against Jared's decks at all.
yeah,
I think any of the three could be pretty rough, but I think I agree with you. I would ban the Angry Hermit deck as well, because if Jared just resolves one, it's game over.
yeah.
And David doesn't have any way to interact with the Druid once it's on the board, except for Engineered Plague, which is in the deck that we think is going to get banned anyway. So that's definitely the deck I would ban, but I would still be a little scared to play against either of the other two decks.
So all right, I'll use this graphic because I haven't had the chance to use it very often. So we think Draco Explosion. What did you think for Jared is going to get banned?
I think David's going to ban the Angry Hermit deck,
Okay, that's
and
so we're
Jared's going to ban Draco Explosion.
okay. So we're in agreement. That's what we think. All right, this is
Yep.
this
Yeah.
is our predictions. This is not what's happened yet. So all right, so let's jump over to the match, and we will
All
be
right.
able to find out what decks were banned. If you want to look that up, and then you want to let them know that they can start,
Yep.
and then I will update once we figure out what decks they're actually playing.
All right. Sounds good. So I'm looking here at the ban list, and it looks like
Both players have
uh,
Mulligan ones. It looks like. Oh, were there multiple cards in David's pile that went to the bottom?
I didn't see it. I'm looking at the
Okay.
bans. So it looks like David banned Stifle Knot, and Jared banned Draco.
Okay. Let me flip David's screen around.
So we've got Island from David, and a Coast, and a Petal from Jared. So it looks like Hermit Druid.
Hermit Druid.
We're going to see it for the second time this week. Now, Jared's version is a little bit different than Michael Arnold's, um, but it's just as powerful. Oh, there's the turn one Limb Duel's Vault, which is nice against any potential discard that David might have, because he can just order his library and however he needs it, but his hand's safe.
So we're still not 100% sure if David's on the Mana Flare combo or the blue green opposition or blue green black opposition deck.
Right.
So from Jared's perspective, he's still not 100% sure. I mean, I don't think that really changed much of his decisions. Okay, so he's on the opposition.
Yep.
All right, so I'll update that.
So the shields are down here. He does run Circular Logic, but he can't cast it right now. So if Jared just taps and plays a Hermit Druid, this could be rough for David. There it is. All right,
Right.
Jared goes down to 18,
Okay.
and David's at 19. Welcome everybody. It looks like we have a handful of viewers out there. Thanks for tuning in. This could be a pretty short match. We'll see how this goes. We'll see what David does. Mike, David doesn't have any bounce or stifle effects in his deck, does he?
I'm pretty sure not in the main deck, no.
Okay. He's in a rough spot here then. I mean, if he can get an opposition in play somehow, that would be good,
Well, I
but
mean, I guess so. Jared's list does have Cabal Therapy because that's a big difference between the list that Michael had. Is he didn't have any Cabal Therapies because he was using the um, Shallow Grave as one of the reanimation spells. So
right.
if it were against Michael, then the counter magic is a little bit better because you might be able to counter a reanimation spell. But I think the Cabal Therapy is likely to name Circular Logic because I think that's probably the card that he's most afraid of from the spot. But
Yep. And is it a quiet speculation from David?
yeah, so it looks like the split he's getting is 2 Cabal Therapies and an Acorn Harvest.
That's pretty nice. He can strip reanimation spells from Jared's hand.
Yeah, the problem is um he if Jared has lands, then he could mill himself. If he has 1 land on the next turn, he can mill himself and then flashback Corrosion Reclamation and then draw one of the reanimation spells.
Yep.
So the Cabal Therapy wouldn't be able to hit those cards, but he might be worried about counter magic. But I guess he still would have a Cabal Therapy in the graveyard, most likely, to interact with counter spells. So I think Jared's still in a very good position.
And so he did have a reanimate.
Okay.
Yep.
So
So the Cabal Therapy pays off, and he saves the Mongrel in case he needs it for Circular Logic, which makes sense. But Jared does have the 3rd land, right? So he can untap, play the land, and then he can end step, activate Druid.
So the Cabal Therapy needed so he missed on the front half. Oh no, he sacrificed it right away. Yeah, because it was in the graveyard. So he named
Yep.
reanimate and hit. Okay. So a
So there's
mesmeric.
the Fiend.
Oh, I didn't realize that was in Jared's list.
Circular Logic, as we predicted.
Yeah, I guess I mean it's not really the card you want to counter, but it's probably was going to be the card that you're going to take anyway. So
Yep. I'm looking at David's list, and he does have a Coffin Purge post board, which is nice.
okay.
But
yeah,
it's not as good against Jared's list. It's actually better against Mike Arnold's list.
Yeah, because Jared has the Ixiom as compared to
Correct.
Yeah, where all of Mike's. Well, I guess even with Mike's list, you could stack both of the Suture Grills on top, and then even if you exile one of them with Shallow Grave. But I'll bring up Ixiom.
That's true. So getting in with Wild Mongrel here. Jared goes to 13.
Oh, I am way off on that count. All right, 13
Sorry.
to 19.
Yeah, and that's definitely, Exhum's definitely going to be the card that Jared wants. Well, he doesn't have another land, does he? So he has to get Reanimate, but it probably won't matter.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
interesting, he doesn't end of turn activate the Druid. Why not?
I guess the only thing is if you're like afraid of counter spells, or if you have a land in hand. I don't. But do we know the last card in his hand?
I guess we don't. So, yeah, if he's worried about the Croson Reclamation getting countered.
Oh, he knew the top card because of Limdol's Vault. Though it's kind of like one of those things is when it's 5 cards deep. I mean, you definitely remember the first 2 cards you put, and then like it's a little bit harder to remember cards 3, 4, and 5. So it's kind of like, oh, I can't remember if I put land at like the 5th position or the 4th position. So sometimes it's tricky to remember, but.
So there's the Cabal Therapy. We
Right.
see an island.
So Jared took.
He just has the Exhume. All right, that's
Okay.
game.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, good call. Throwback Duggan as well in chat. So perhaps he just stacked it, so he drew the Exhume. Doesn't need to worry about the Croson Reclamation. Okay. Well, that's about what we had expected. If Jared resolves the Hermit Druid, David's in a pretty tough spot. What are we looking at with sideboard, Mike?
All right, let's go over to that screen. And the Angry Ghoul deck. So, options. I mean, Crumble is a card against Tormod's Crypt, but I don't think David has any. Defense Grid is a card against Counter Magic, and I guess a Coffin Purge that Jared knows about. So I think Defense Grid is probably the card that he's looking at. I mean, you could even make an argument for like Corrosion Reclamation, but I feel like that's another Corrosion Reclamation. I'm thinking more of it as like a disruptive element to like exile certain things, but I don't think that really does enough.
I would bring it in.
Okay.
I would bring in the other Reclamation. It's good against graveyard removal.
I think more important is what does David have that to combat Jared's plan, and the Coffin Purge that we talked about is definitely a card that we come in. I mean, you could make an argument for Moment's Peace.
Yes, I think you absolutely could.
I think I actually kind of like that plan, though the problem is because there's another Corrosion Reclamation. Because I think the plan would be is like, okay, my plan is for him to go off and then me to fog twice and deck him, and
you could bring in a Ray of Revelation as well. You just need one to get
Sure.
rid of the Dragon's Breath. I like 2 Moments Peace and Array a lot, actually.
actually, and then like I think that's actually a good plan because it's like if you Moments Peace, then you might be able to like so if you go turn 2 Wild Mongrel, turn 3 you Moments Peace and counter and fog the turn, and then turn 4 you play an opposition and you're able to tap down the Suture Ghoul. Like
Yep.
that's very problematic for Jared's deck because he's already dumped his entire graveyard, and I don't think he has that many ways to deal with like the opposition. So that is like a situation where I think the Moments Piece would be pretty good.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And I think if you're Jared, you have to predict that. And so you probably bring in the defense grids and the Corrosion
Mhm.
Reclamation. I think it's probably the play. What do you take out if you're Jared?
I'm gonna jump back over that list. I'm not sure in terms of sideboarding with this card. I don't know how, like, if Mesmeric Fiend or Unmasks or like. I guess if you're bringing in just a defense grid, you could make the argument as like I don't need to disrupt their hand as much. That's
Yeah,
probably what
I
I'm
would take out
thinking.
Unmask. I would take out Unmask.
Is Unmask better or worse than Duress?
I think it's probably worse in this matchup.
Okay, because obviously you have to use 2 cards to cast it the vast majority of the times, but like Duress,
Yeah,
kind of it. I mean, it kind of hits the cards you want to hit, but it also misses some of the time. Like it's you don't really feel good about like hitting a Moment's Piece or something, but like taking opposition is good, but you're never gonna be able. Like I can see like unmasking and taking a Wild Mongrel and that being relevant because it's gonna break up like the madness thing with circular logic or something, but obviously committing 2 cards for the alternate cost
yeah.
is a
And
big deal.
I think David's plan is to play out of the graveyard anyway, so discard's not quite as good. I mean, it's good against the circular logics, and potentially against opposition. But I think if I'm Jared, what I want to do is I just want to blank a lot of David's cards just by playing the defense grid. I think that might be my strategy.
All right, we have a new subscriber. Thank you to Standard Deviations for the subscription. We
Hey, thank you.
appreciate the support. So someone commented, "Oh, this opposition deck." I read about all the nostalgia, but I wasn't sure which one. I guess I mean because there is some nostalgia for like the Angry Ghoul deck because it's kind of a. I mean, this deck was played and extended for a while. I mean, the version looked a little bit different because the card pools were a little different. But I could see someone having nostalgia for both of these decks. Though any shell with Blue Green Madness, I think hits home to a lot of people because it's one of those things where it's like blue green. No one can get mad at Blue Green Opposition or Blue Green Madness. Sorry, I don't know how many times I said
No.
opposition, but Blue Green Madness is like kind of one of those decks is always the good guy.
Should I let them know that oh
Yeah,
wait, looks
yeah.
like Jared's shuffling. I thought he was ready, but it looks like he's shuffling, so he may be
Is
mulliganing.
is David ready? I don't see any cards in his playmat.
I
But,
think David's ready.
all right.
Did you see Patrick's message, by the way, Mike?
No, I didn't. Is this in the chat or in the Facebook or in the group?
It's in the group.
No, I don't have that open.
So while you're taking a look at that, looks like both players looks like David's ready and Jared's shuffling. All right. All right, Felder Griffey subscription. Thank you so much. It's awesome. Slowly building the following. All right, so Jared's taking a look here.
All right, I'll switch back to.
All right, I'll let them know, and we'll jump into game 2 here, folks. See how this pans out after sideboard. The Hermit deck is never as good after sideboard, but it does win a lot of the game ones.
The thing is, like, against a lot of typical decks in more modern formats, those kind of glass cannons of dredge or affinity type decks, there's super powerful hate cards that usually disrupt it. And I think the only like really big one that's played is Tormod's Crypt, and there is a plan for that. So I mean, like, as obviously I think it's better in game 1 than it is game 2, but
Turn 1 Hermit Druid from Jared, living the dream. All right.
I mean, that's part of the advantage of playing a deck like this is you just have draws that are super powerful, and you really demand your opponent make
to have the answer.
Yeah. All right, I gotta adjust life totals.
Does he have the reanimate in hand? Okay, there's the duress. So we'll see. So what do we see? We see, yep, there's the Rave Revelation, Circular Logic. Interesting.
I think you take, well, I mean, you take Circular Logic. The Rave Revelation needs to be discarded to cast because it has the front half is white, but he does have a Wild Mongrel in play, so.
Is he just going for it? Oh my God, that's
wow.
Game. Wow, that's how it can go sometimes, folks. Like, the other thing we didn't mention is the Druid deck. It mulligans really well too, because if you can put that Sutured Ghoul on the bottom or that Cloud Scraper or whatever. So that's the power of the deck. When it fires, it fires. So let's unmute the players and get their take.
Yeah, I'll jump over. Okay.
Draco deck interacts best with my 2 Gombo decks, between the Duresses and the bolts, you know, especially the bolts. Hermits.
The problem is, like, the Draco deck has duress, so it's going to get banned every single match. Like,
hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, exactly. No, I totally agree. That's a bummer, but it's all good. All right, what we got?
We have you guys unmuted. I don't know if you have.
I need to kill some time. Hello.
Hey.
Hello, Jared.
Hi.
David, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
So as an avid player of the Hermit Druid deck, you know, I love to see it win, but I also feel bad to see it go so quickly. What do you guys think coming into this one?
Yeah, well, I was 100% he was going to ban. I'm 100% everyone's going to ban Draco every single one of my matches.
Yeah.
So it was between whether I wanted to lose to a Phyrexian Dreadnought that I can't interact with, or whether or not I want to lose to a Hermit Druid that I can interact with. So.
Yeah, I was just, and I knew he was going to ban my Dreadnought, and then when I saw the other 2 decks, I'm like, well, I'm just going to go for a fast combo that, you know, it doesn't seem like he can interact with very well. So, I mean, it really was an easy decision, and all told, but it was just like, I felt pretty good about the matchup, either matchup in general. So.
Yeah, when we were talking about the bans, looking at all 3 of Jared's decks, we pretty much assumed that Draco was going to get banned, and then I thought any of the 3 decks that Jared could bring against the 2 remaining decks had a good matchup. So yeah, I think it was tough from David's perspective of what he needed to do. So yeah.
And also, this deck can just win on turn 2. You know what I mean? Like, it just
yes.
Like, it just double pedal. Wow, yeah, with the duress backup, like that's
Well,
I
with
mean,
him tapped out though, with the mongrel, I wasn't even that worried, right? Like, and if I can resolve, I mean, the real thing is resolving the. If I can resolve it before he gets his counter magic up, then there's not
Yeah, I
much.
was like, you have my deck lists.
Right, exactly.
You know
I
I
mean, the
can't
only
do
thing
it.
I'm kind of worried about is if he makes it go long enough that opposition becomes an issue,
mhm.
but that's turn 4 because he doesn't have much in the way of acceleration. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's
I just super desperate sideboard plan, but
That's I pretty
literally
much
all I can do.
yeah. That's what we talked about. Like we actually kind of like the moments piece plan in terms of
of
you
course,
you might be able to sneak something out of like moments piecing and then having an opposition and then you just deck them.
Yeah.
yeah. We
That's
were
like literally the only way I can win, probably, if he lands a Hermit Druid, which, again, like it's even. If I somehow got to 2 mana before he had a pedal, like it's still hard for me to do. He's got Duress, he's got Mesmeric Fiend, like yeah, it's all bad.
yeah. I moved in
yeah.
my coffin purge for the moment's pieces exactly, so you can make those go longer. And I moved in a rare revelation just in case, because if opposition's in, I need to kill it before I can attack with the ghoul. So that was my only concern. But I really just wanted to keep my deck as fast as possible, and that's exactly what it did. So
That's totally fair, and that's not something we talked about too. But for chat out there, that's why having these flashback cards in the sideboard for Hermit Druid is really important. So you can still interact even after you've dumped your deck. So Flaring Pain, Coffin Purge, Rave Revelation, they're really nice to have those in the graveyard for sure.
yeah, like if he had the opposition, I could still do the combo. I mean, he'd probably try to tap me down, but I could still go off a druid and then ray away the opposition so that my ghoul could reanimate and attack maybe in a turn or something like that. And like the coffin purge could get rid of his moments piece or could get rid of whatever else could delay the combo. But
Jared, did you bring in the second Croson as well?
I didn't, but I
Ooh.
probably could have and should have. I just, like I said, I wasn't sure what to really take out. I wanted to keep it as lean as possible. I took out the Sylvan Safekeeper. Didn't need that.
Mhm.
I took out a what did I take out? A Mana Source just to kind of throw it on the draw, and I took out something else for. I took out the Fiend for Defense Grid just because it's basically kind of almost doing the same thing. They're both
Yeah.
getting rid of the counters, so I just figured it was a little more potent. But yeah, there wasn't much to do. I guess I could have put in the other Crossroom because I didn't want to take out Duress. I didn't want to take out any of the combo pieces. So it's just like there wasn't much to take out. So, but
We were talking about potentially taking out Unmask since most of his cards do more damage in the graveyard except for opposition, which you can kind of answer anyway.
that's true.
I don't know if you thought about that at all.
No, I did think about Unmask because when you sideboard with this deck, you have to keep the combo intact because it's so lean. So the only things you can really change out are the interactive pieces of Unmasked, Duress, and Mesmeric Fiend, Sylvan Safekeeper, whatever it is, and everything else has to pretty much stay the same. You can maybe cut and exhume, but you don't really want to go lower than 7 reanimate spells, and ideally you want to keep all 8. So it's tough to
Mhm.
kind of figure it out. I usually figure leave it as powerful as possible, as possible. So, but yeah, I was excited to get to play it. Didn't play it for very long, but it did its thing. So, anyway, but yeah. So, when's the next match?
Yes, Michael, you want to give our listeners, our viewers, an update here in terms of next steps for the evening? You might be muted, Mike.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't.
yeah, I am muted. So we are going to check with our players to see if we can get started a little bit started earlier than scheduled. But there are a few things they need to work out quick. So I'm going to put up our intermission screen, and so if you want to sit tight, and then if our players aren't able to start at an earlier time, then Flint and I are going to come back online, and we're going to do some pregame chat. We'll do the pregame chat before our players come on, and then we'll be able to start at our scheduled time. So sit tight, everyone. It'll probably be between 5 and 10 minutes before we come back online. So don't go anywhere. I'll run a few of our quote unquote ads, and there are some new ones there. So just sit tight, and we'll be back shortly.
Thanks, guys. Good games,
Okay.
and congrats, Jared. Good luck next week, David.
Bye.
Okay, everyone, we are back. Thank you for waiting. In the meantime, I would like, when we were gone, I'd like to thank. We had a couple of subscriptions. We had subscription. We forgot to mention Feldergriffy when he subscribed earlier. Thank you for that. We had a follow from Aaron Plays Retro, and then also another subscription from JSS King. So again, thank you from the support for all of you.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, so I have an Oath deck list up, and I guess that isn't necessarily revealing which player that is because we have both the players tonight have the potential of playing Oath. I have Andrew Walker's Oath deck up, and very quickly I'll go over these decks, and then we're going to talk about banning potentials. But this deck is looking to set up shop. It has the card draw engine of Scroll Rack and Land Tax, and then it just has the ability to drop an Oath of Druids, and the only target it's going to get is Phantom Neshoba. And if your opponent's not playing creatures, it has 3 Funeral Pyres to give him creatures. And other than that, it's just all working around that one plan to do that, and he's looking to get out a big fatty as soon as he can. Andrew's other deck is Squeebind, and so this is kind of like a red-green control deck, but the way it works is the engine is between Exploration and Hornagreed, and it has a bunch of lands, so it looks to draw a bunch of cards, and then once it has control of the game, it will use Stormbind and has Squee, and those combination will just always hopefully discarding Squee will get that back, and then eventually take over the game with Stormbind. And then Andrew's last deck is a blue-green Enchantress deck. And so it's looking to get a couple of Mana the Enchantments with Wild Growth or Fertile Ground. I think maybe is the cards on a land, and then have either a number of Enchantresses presence or Argothian Enchantress in play, and then also Words of Wind. And with those set up, it's able to play a Cloud of Fairies and then bounce everything indefinitely for your opponent, and then just win however it pleases, either with a 1/1 or a Living Wish for a Palinchron, and then kill him with a 4/5 flyer. So it's a combo deck that is looking to lock the opponent out of the game. All right, so Flint, do you want to talk about the 3 decks that Patrick has available to him? The first one is the blue-black Zombie Infestation deck.
Sure. And again, we'll do this pretty quickly since we've talked about these before. But basically, again, it's everybody's favorite goblin, Squee, with that nice return to hand ability. So he basically uses that to take advantage of zombie infestation with some card synergies like Intuition and Wonder. Some quick disruption with Duress, card draw with Gush and Accumulated Knowledge. And it's actually a really strong deck. It's unassuming when you see zombie infestation, but it can take over the game really, really quickly.
The next deck is the Artifact Burn deck.
Yeah, so this is Patrick's take on an alternate version of Sly, and instead of using some of the traditional pieces, it relies more on Black Vice. It's actually a really good first turn play and very good against control, but it's got some of your standard Sly villains in Ball Lightning, Sulfuric Vortex, Fire Blast, of course, maybe the best card in the deck, and then a lot of direct damage in Lightning Bolt, Volcanic Hammer, and Incinerate. And then out of the board, he's got some other strategies that are aimed at a lot of what other decks aim to do against red. And we saw this in action last week, I think, and it actually beat Blue-White Landstill. Pretty powerful deck.
And his last option is the Oath-Tron deck that Patrick's kind of well known for.
Right. Maybe we'll see that Oath v Oath matchup that viewers just can't get enough of, I'm sure. But basically uses the Oath strategy to get a Phantom Neshoba, but also aims to play the long game, getting the Urzatron lands into play and going for a big Decree of Justice. A lot of the egg-like lands to kind of cycle through his deck. Very powerful deck, and Patrick's had some success with it in the monthly, so he's a pretty experienced pilot.
Yeah, he's a little less reliant on the Oath of Druids triggering. He has Living Wish and Decree of Justice to get threats out of that if his Oath of Druids is not triggering. He does have some Funeral Pyres as well. All right, so let's move over to the bans, and we'll talk about what we think is going to be banned. So if I am Patrick, I think the deck I'm most afraid of is the blue green enchantress deck. I think I've said this maybe every time I'm playing against Andrew, but I think it's just potentially because the only really fast deck Patrick has is the slide deck, and if you give the blue green enchantress deck time to set up, it has the potential of just locking the other two decks out. And I think that is the hardest one to interact with from Patrick's perspective. What do you think, Flint?
It's a good question. I'm kind of torn because part of me sees that and, doesn't want to lose to the Enchantress deck on turn 4. But I'm also kind of afraid of the Artifact Burn deck because the Artifact Burn deck, I think, just steamrolls the Oath and the Stormbind deck.
Wait, we're talking
So,
about we're talking about Patrick banning one of Andrew's decks.
oh, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. So I think that he probably bans. Actually, I think I would ban Oath if I
Okay.
were Patrick. Um, the reason why is because I think that he can play either burn or zombies and beat either the other two decks, just given the disruption that zombies has or the speed of burn. So I think Oath is really the only deck that might be able to go the distance and gain enough life to stay alive in either of those matchups. So I would actually ban Oath if I were
Okay.
Patrick.
If you were Andrew, what deck were you going to ban?
I was going to ban Artifact Burn, right? So
Okay.
I switched that up. Sorry, everybody. But yeah, I would ban Artifact Burn. I think it just has game against most of what Andrew wants to do and could potentially race the Enchantress deck.
I'll agree there. I think that is probably the most difficult one, especially if you have like. I mean, if he knew he could take the Oath deck, then I think that's uh, something he would bring into battle. But if he's anticipating that Oath deck to get banned, then I think Sly is the scariest one against the other two decks. So that's probably
Yep.
what I would ban from Andrew's perspective. All right, let's jump over to the match between those two. Flint, you want to let us know which ones they banned, and you can let them know that we can start, and I will get their screen flipped around so it looks normal.
So it looks like Andrew banned Artifact Burn
Okay.
and Patrick banned Oath.
Okay.
All right. I'll let him know to get started.
I'll reset the life totals. That seems important. Okay. Cool.
Perfect.
I will be updating the deck names if you want to take it for the first minute.
Yep, sounds good. All right. So it looks like Patrick's going to start us off here with a gorgeous Urza's Tower, perhaps my favorite of the various tower images from Antiquities there. And he plays a Sungrass Egg.
So what does that tell us he's on?
He's definitely playing his Oathtron deck. And we see an exploration from Andrew and an island. So I guess we're going to get to see Enchantress. So who's favored here, chat? If Andrew's on Blue Green Enchantress and Patrick's on Oathtron. Yeah, agreed, Mike Harris, for sure. So there's the Oath from Patrick. So if Andrew wants to run out an Enchantress here to speed up his engine, he's gonna run into a Phantom Nishoba, I think. All right, looks like we have 24 viewers. Awesome. Welcome, everybody. So we've got Patrick's at 19, by the way. Takes 1 damage to play the Oath. Follows it up with a Chromatic Sphere, looks like. Classic card. Robin's rooting for Enchantress. Feels odd to say it, but it's true. Fair enough. Blue Green Enchantress is a fun deck to play. I played it one of the monthlies back in about a year ago. It did fairly well.
Even if a deck is degenerate, like I think combo decks are exciting to see if you like don't see them combo off that often. So it's like, I mean, I don't even know if I've ever actually like really played against this deck. So it's like it's still pretty exciting to see in action.
Yeah, and it can stall out. Oh, wow. And a seal removal to draw a card. So that's bad news for Patrick. If Andrew has the right hand, he might just win next turn. He doesn't have a Wild Growth or a Fertile Ground in play, but if he's sandbagging a Sarah Sanctum or something in his hand, then
Is that a naturalize that was
it'd be
cast on
problematic.
the sealer removal?
It looks like it was, yes. So what does he get? Oh, he's got the Weaver. Probably not the creature he wanted to see.
Yeah, I don't think that one helps very much in this matchup. But
Not so much.
yeah, that's the one thing. Like with Patrick has a variety of creatures that he's gonna oath up, so he doesn't have control of which one he's gonna get.
Right. And to chat's point, Robin, you're right. It is more fun to play against than green white. It can lose. It tries to go off, but it can definitely stall out when it's trying to do its thing. It's not just I play Hermit Druid and I win the game. You have to link a bunch of different cards together to make it happen.
So it does have. I mean, I don't know if many decks have the out of being able to go like win off of 1 mana, but if you do, it's kind of painful to get attacked by a Cloud of Fairies a bunch of times.
Very true. So when I ran this deck, I ran 1 Ambassador Laquatus in the sideboard just to
Okay.
wish for and then just mill him out completely. But it doesn't look like Andrew included in this list.
Well, I mean, there's a Palinchron, so I mean, it's like if you do have basically infinite mana, I mean, and a Living Wish, then that's gonna close out the game pretty quick. So
For sure.
it's somewhat close.
So we've got Patrick on 18 life. Andrew's still sitting at 20.
Spike Weaver's probably not used to attacking. Yeah, he might be able to attack a few times in this matchup. Well, it's interesting that Patrick has the option, if he has the mana, to fog multiple times in one turn to get rid of his creature, and then he'd be able to oath again because Andrew will still have his creature in play. So here we saw the Words of Wind
Words of
come down.
Wind. Ooh, that's rough. So Jared, the way it works is you get a bunch of enchantments in play, you get Wild Growths or Fertile Ground on your land, then you play a Cloud of Fairies to untap your land with the enchantments on it. You drop another enchantment, you draw a ton of cards with an Enchantress or an Enchantress Presence in play. And then you just generate a ton of mana. You bounce your fairies. You keep bouncing your fairies to untap your lands with the Words of Wind for one of the draw triggers. And so you just accumulate more cards in your hand and more mana every single time. You bounce their entire board, and it's pretty much game over at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, we definitely talk about it like kind of going like infinite, but I mean, it definitely can have draws where, like in this position, it could just bounce a bunch of Patrick's stuff and to gain a board advantage, where it's bouncing cards that it's able to play again, but where it's not technically comboing off like that infinite loop that we talked about, and still just kind of lock the opponent out. Oh, if you're talking about how it actually wins, it just with a Cloud of Fairies are in the main deck, and then he has an option of Palinchron in the sideboard.
Yep.
So we see a Frantic Search.
It's death from 1,000 fairy attacks.
It's a good way to go.
Yeah, Jared, attack for 1 or Living Wish for a Palinchron and attack for 4.
So there are copies of Sarah Sanctum in Andrew's deck, and that can be really powerful with Frantic Search.
Yes. All right, so not a lot of pressure on Andrew here. He looks like he's at 18, right? You got him, okay?
Yeah, he attacked with a 2/2 because he at the end of turn Patrick did fog just to remove a counter. So I think his plan is to get rid of the Spike Weaver to kind of upgrade it into a different creature.
Yep. So there's a presence. So now he's drawing 2 per enchantment. So it's getting to the point where Andrew could just take over the game here. The fastest the blue-green Enchantress deck can kill really is turn 4, at least in my playing of it. But he's got plenty of time here.
So yeah, every enchantment that he's playing is drawing him 2 cards if he wants. I mean, he also has the option to sink a mana into to bounce stuff. So like in this spot, like you could draw a card and then pay 1 mana to return a permanent. Each player has to return a permanent. Andrew could return like a Seal of Removal, and then that goes back to his hand, and then he'd be able to play it again and draw 2 more cards, which if he has excess mana, he's just able to activate the... I guess in that spot, it's when you play it, when you cast it, so the Seal of Removal isn't in play. But with other enchantments, he's able to do that loop and kind of just gain a board presence, because Patrick has to keep picking up cards while Andrew's able to replay the cheap cards that he has.
Yeah, and Elendril, Mike Arnold's right. He'll never deck himself, Jared, because with the Words of Wisdom in play, he can just skip his draw step. So swinging in for 2 more. We've got Andrew down to 16, but this might be the turn, depending on what's in Andrew's hand.
Is that
He's
attack
got
for
plenty of mana.
2 more came to...
Yeah.
Yeah, the Spike Weaver's still 2/2.
Yep. So tap in for 3, another Words of Wind.
Lots of draw
2
triggers.
draw triggers. Yep.
So from this spot, like, are you looking to kind of value Words of Wind, or are you looking to just draw cards? Are you looking to find Cloud of Fairies and the enchantments? Or, like, I guess what is the best route in this position where you...
You want a Cloud of Fairies.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, would you be drawing cards or would you be bouncing Patrick's permanents?
I'd still be drawing cards because there's not enough pressure on Andrew at this point, and Patrick can't interact with Andrew's deck very well. So I mean, I think I would just draw the cards, hope to get the fairies, and if he draws into a fairies and a sanctum, he probably just wins.
Yeah, in terms of what Patrick can do right now, he has a few naturalizes, right? He used 1, but I mean, like, that's 1 naturalize is not going to get you out of the situation.
Yep.
So I don't know what Patrick does. They're asking, like, is there anything that Andrew would be afraid of from Patrick? And I don't really think so. I mean,
No.
Yeah, especially with a Seal Removal in play, like, there might be a position where, like, changing the Spike Weaver into a Phantom Neshoba might be good, but from this board state, it's not good. So yeah, I don't know if Andrew is really afraid of anything. So there we see a Cloud of Fairies.
Is Patrick running Swords to Plowshares?
Yes, he is.
So there is the potential for swords on a Cloud of Fairies with the triggers of the Words of Wind triggers on the stack.
It is a little awkward since there is now there's
Yeah,
two,
but I was just gonna say because he has the seal.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yeah, so this is just a position where incrementally Andrew's just going to get more and more ahead, and Patrick's going to looks like he's fogging just so he can get rid of the creature. Oh no, he's bouncing stuff.
He's bouncing.
He's bouncing.
Yeah,
stuff.
so Andrew's starting to bounce.
Yeah, well, because does he have? He has 1 of the mana enchantments in play, right? Does he have?
He's got 2. He's got 1. He's got a Wild Growth on an island and a Wild Growth on a forest.
But they're not on the same card, the same land.
No, but that's okay.
Oh, I guess because it untaps 2 lands. All right, that's fair. So yeah, this is just a sequence where I think Andrew's able to just bounce everything.
What does this sub get me? In my day, we didn't have subs. We just talked on the telephone. Thanks, Robin.
Yeah, right now I don't know if I have any subscription perks, but I think I read that like the first 10 people get like the founder badge. You can see like Robin has like the first. I think that's because he was the first one to gift a sub to someone. So I don't know if he just will always have that badge. So it's something he can cherish for the rest of his life. put it on his grave, his tombstone.
Anyone out there in chat ever see that old Quiznos commercial with the weird monsters where they're like, "We love these
I
subs
know that
because
one.
they are good to us." Every time I hear subs, I think of that damn commercial.
They've got a pepper bar.
We got a pepper bar.
All right, so
It's game. They're scooping it up. All right.
he's demonstrated a
Anyway.
loop, and the first
Yeah.
game goes to Andrew.
All right, let's take a look at these sideboards, Michael.
Okay, let's go over to the decks. All right, Oathitron. So one of the problems with having a Wish sideboard is you have less cards to bring in. The card Humility seems like it'd be reasonable against Cloud of Fairies, but it's still like it prevents things from happening, but it doesn't like solve the problem. Like you're still not like killing Andrew. You're still kind of slow, and it's kind of an awkward position. Monk Realist is good, but you probably want it in the sideboard because you have Living Wish to get it. I don't like. Are you excited about any of the cards in the sideboard?
Not really. I mean, the realist is good, right? But you probably keep it in the board. I mean, you probably board out your spikes and hope to, oath into your Neshoba, right? So if you're gonna board out the spikes, what do you bring in? The 2 humilities?
You'd bring in the other Neshoba, I think.
Okay.
I would be bringing in humilities, I think, and just taking out. I don't know, like it's kind of weird. Like I don't know if you take out like the egg cards that just kind of cycle, or if you want to be taking out like Swords of Plowshares that aren't that effective, or if you can take out Gaia's Blessing because you're not counting on triggering Oath that many times. Phyrexian Furnace doesn't really do anything, right? I mean,
we should know. I think that the image you have up doesn't have the furnace in the board, but there's no.
No, it's in the main. They're in the main.
Oh, it's in the main. Okay.
Yeah.
But he's got a Wrath of God in his board, right?
Yeah, instead of the wing
Shard.
shards, I think they're actually Wrath of God. But yeah, there's not really good options for Patrick to bring in. Does anything change for Andrew, who also has Living Wish in his main deck? So, but he's a little less committed to that because like the cards that he's going to be getting are a lot more focused. It's not as much of a toolbox sideboard. It's more of these are redundancy pieces. So the cards that, I guess
I think you bring in the seals.
Seal of Cleansing seems better than the average card.
Yeah.
You could make an argument for Gilded Drake, but I don't know. It's like, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's needed. I think I would rather have my deck be more focused. I feel like your deck is advantaged enough that you don't need to kind of deviate from that plan.
Yeah, I think you just bring in the Seal of Cleansings.
Yeah,
and you probably just call it good there.
Yeah, I feel like Andrew's deck is really well set up. This is why I would have banned this deck. I feel like from this position, I don't think Patrick has any really good angles to attack this matchup.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, he's definitely way more advantaged if he's running the zombies or the artifact burn deck, but this is a tough matchup for him for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me take a look and see what the players are doing. It looks like they're still sideboarding, so
okay.
There's a lot going on in the chat. I think someone has discovered Twitch memes.
The emotes, yeah.
Or the emotes, whatever they're. See, I'm an old man too. I don't have the correct term.
Chat, I need your input because I think as an affiliate, I get the chance to make, I think, one emote right now. So I need ideas of what we would do because I don't really feel like there's anything that really is like specific to our channel that like is kind of I don't know that would identify us. So I don't know if it just needs to be something that's more general to the game of Magic that could be applied to other channels, but we need ideas for an emote.
It'd be cool if we could do a miniature version of our logo.
Yeah, but one of the things you want to do is like want like what times are people going to be able to use that in chat? Like, are people going to be able to like you want to, because usually the emotes have meaning, and so you can kind of involve them in chat. And so like when you get excited about something, you might do something, or when a exciting play happens, you might use a certain emote, or when someone messes up, you use a certain emote, or when we say do something dumb or something, then you use a certain emote, kind of like that. Like when certain things happen, you have an appropriate emote. So yeah, something that maybe um, might have a little bit of overlap with regular Magic, but it could be pretty specific to yeah, OMG Lightning Helix. Yeah,
Oh my god!
so
Oh my god!
so okay, I'm gonna switch over to the play screen. There's still,
It looks like Andrew shuffling,
yeah,
but
I can see a shadow of a bunch of cards. So
yeah,
he's
I'll
either
let him know that they can start whenever.
okay, he's either looking at a bunch of cards in his hand, or if he's still determining what cards he wants to bring in.
All right. So while they're doing that, okay, they're off. All right, so we see a forest from Patrick.
All right. We got Andrew the Explorer over here. He leads off with a turn 1 forest, exploration, forest, Miri's Guile. So it's a
Pretty good.
4-1 advantage in terms of permanence. So exploration is kind of a cool card, because even if you don't like set up like that complete combo lockout that we talked about, you could be bouncing just regular lands and be able to play 2 lands per turn, and then you're setting your opponent back while you're just netting even. So it's a kind of an important card in this deck.
Absolutely. 4 lands in play, so not many left in hand though, and not a draw engine yet.
Yeah. So what cards is Andrew looking from this perspective?
An Enchantress's Presence would probably be his best draw.
Okay. So when you're playing the blue green enchantress deck, like let's say, obviously we don't know the other cards in Andrew's hand, but would you ever not play a turn 1 exploration if you're, I mean, if you do have one of the enchantress effects in play, then maybe I think that's a, like if you have a Growthian enchantress, then maybe it's a reasonable thing because you want to use them to draw cards. But like, do you ever slow roll any of those enchantments, or do you just play them out?
It depends on what you have in your hand. I mean, I think if you have an Enchantress in your hand, you might hold some back. So you might just turn 1, play a land, and if, a wild growth or maybe an exploration. But then after that, you want to make sure that you save them until after you've played your Enchantress or your Enchantress's Presence. My guess is he doesn't have either, right? I mean, he hasn't played them. He's passed with 4 up and then 3 up, so or 5 up. So yeah, I'm guessing he just doesn't have it. So at this point, I would be sandbagging enchantments. Like if those 2 cards are enchantments in his hands, I definitely would not play them out. If they're like a seal or a wild growth or a fertile ground, I would definitely be keeping, or another exploration, just keep it in your hand.
Yeah, that makes sense, because they don't. You have a bunch of mana, and the draw triggers are much more important than the tempo you get by playing them right away.
Yeah, and I don't know if I like Miri's Guile in this deck. I mean, it's nice to be able to look at the top 3, but Sylvan just seems way better.
Definitely in this matchup, you have the luxury of paying life, and this is a spot where you would like to dig 2 cards deeper and just put them in your hand to try and get closer to those cards that we talked about. But here the Mirror's Guile just is moving cards around, like you're not getting the card advantage from it.
And he's not playing fetch lands either, so you don't get to use the shuffle tricks either. So we see a blessing from Patrick just to cycle it. Just a little cycle there.
Well,
Sorcery speed cycle.
that's what a lot of his deck is. If you look at like Barb Sextants, Chromatic Sphere, Sungrass Egg,
Oh
like
yeah.
those are cards. It's kind of like one of those decks where it has the cards it wants to draw, and then the cards that just kind of are, I'll call them air, and they're just like they just cycle. I mean, part of the reason I think the Sungrass Egg like helps his mana, and the Chromatic Sphere, yeah. I mean, obviously they do help his mana because he does have the 9 colorless lands or maybe more, but yeah, it's just kind of air in the deck to make his deck virtually smaller.
Hmm.
But yeah, we see just another land from Andrew and just nothing going on. But even so, like, is Patrick? What does he do to punish this? Like, is he looking to set up a bunch of mana so that he can decree justice for a bunch, or is he just like looking to trigger oath if he can? Like, I don't. It's hard. It's hard to say like what Patrick even wants to do from this position.
If I'm in Patrick's shoes right now, I'm hoping to obviously get Tron and a decree at some point, or Oath isn't as relevant, but I'm hoping to get a naturalize. So when Andrew does find that Enchantress's presence, I'm ready for it. Or perhaps, find that Wrath of God that I'm sure I boarded in as well. Because if you can just continue to slow the Enchantress deck down, eventually Patrick will be in a spot where he can just close the game out. Because Andrew hasn't had an explosive start. I mean, it looked like he was going to, but he just kind of, flooded out. So now I'm thinking, how can I prepare for the card that is potentially going to start the engine for Andrew?
Yeah, I definitely see like this is a spot where Naturalize is good as compared to last game where Andrew just had an overload of enchantments where killing one doesn't do anything. But here you could target the one card. There's one card of the engine card that would really keep Andrew from doing anything because I mean, he's seen the top 3 cards, and still, like, every time he's not really doing much still. So the top 3 cards can't be that good. So if it's basically he's playing off the top in a sense.
So he's tapping for 3 mana here, saving 1. So there's the Enchantress. So now Patrick needs to think, okay, how do I get that off the board as soon as possible? 2 Enchantresses. So Wrath of God is is very important here. Just the one too, right?
Yeah. No, there's 2 because there were 2. We had them displayed as wing shards, but I think he said there were Wrath of Gods. There were 2 in the sideboard.
Yeah. So he played a Wild Growth to draw 2. Mike Arnold recommending Thawing Glaciers here. He and I have been talking about that card a little bit. Oh my god.
Thawing Glaciers is very slow.
Wow. If Andrew just had the mana to play a Cloud of Fairies here, he could win.
He needs a Words of Wind, right?
He does. But he's just drawn, what, 6 cards?
Sure.
So Felder Griffey asking about deck lists. Do we have the deck list posted somewhere?
I don't have them linked. I don't have a command available. I'll bring them up after the match, but that is something I need to get available that we can see during the match so that people in the chat can access the deck lists.
So there's the Cloud of Fairies from Andrew. So he gets to untap his Sanctum and a Wild Growth land. Tap for a bunch more mana. Yeah, good idea, Felder Griffey. Just having a link in the channel info would be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I could do that. I'll get that for
We'll
the
do
next
that.
episode.
We'll do that moving forward.
Yeah.
Thank you for the recommendation. So there's the Enchantress's presence. Oof. So now we need a Words of Wind.
But yeah, I mean, like, pretty much he just needs enchantments and like
Frantic Search.
I'm pretty sure Andrew's gonna win this turn. Like,
Yeah.
So he's because any enchantment he sees draws him 4 cards, and if he hits any Words of Wind, I mean, maybe mana might be an issue, but like if he ever gets to the loop, then he just has infinite mana.
When he's about to untap 2
3
Wild
cards.
Growth lands
Okay,
and
a Sarah's Sanctum.
a Sarah's Sanctum here.
Yeah, okay. So mana is not an issue at the moment.
Yeah, a Words of Wind is just game over.
So yeah, I would guess like Andrew is like probably like 90% to win this turn,
Yeah, he'd be very unlucky not to have drawn into a Words of Wind.
or just enough enchantments to kind of like do whatever he needs to. Thanks Robin. All right, we get to count how many.
How much white mana does Andrew get?
I can't tell.
He actually doesn't have
I
too
guess-
many. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, now 5 enchantments in play. He's got a Wild Growth, 2 Enchantresses Presence, an Exploration, 2 Mary's Guile, so he's up to 6 now.
Okay.
3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got 6 in play now. It was 5 before.
All right.
Place another Exploration.
More exploring.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Woo. Yeah, folks.
I need to play this deck. Drawing cards is fun.
It is. Drawing cards is fun. Yeah, it's very good, but it's weak. I mean, red. It's rough trying to beat red. Jared, you know, if you're still in chat, you remember you played against me back in the monthly when I was on this, and you were on Sly, and you beat my pants off.
Is that just because it's too fast, or because the Sly deck can still win, like playing a mountain and casting a bolt and then passing the turn, where like the Words of Wind lock doesn't really do anything?
It was just too fast, and I think that there's something to be said about being able to play a mountain and bolt you out as well. But he just killed me both games before I could go off. That's why when we were looking at this, I was thinking that the deck potentially, you know, that Artifact Burn had game against this, that it could race it, and that zombies could disrupt it.
So we saw Wild Growth go onto a tapped island, and now I think there's 2 of them on that. What is this? What is the art in this card? What is?
It's a bunch of brambles going through a skull. It looks like maybe an ape skull or a tiger skull. You can see the fangs in the front of it.
Skull or a seed?
It's a skull.
Oh, okay.
He shows him the. Just the old swipe all your cards to the side play.
I mean, yeah.
Oh my god, 3 naturalizes in his hand and a humility.
Technically, they go back to his hand and not in the graveyard, but yeah, I think that is showing Patrick scooping. So
yeah, I was surprised as well, Robin. And he had the answers in his hand, but he just didn't have the mana. All right, so you could JSS King, but you just don't have to. That's the thing. Like you wouldn't want to take up a slot with a stroke.
Yeah, because there's certain times when you draw a Stroke of Genius where it just doesn't do what you want, and like if you assemble the lock, then it doesn't really matter how you kill them. Like, so yeah. I mean, it might help you against a deck against like Sly. So maybe like 1 in the sideboard could be good for that situation of where you're just trying to go through your deck until you get a Stroke of Genius to kill him. But I think in the majority of matchups, I don't think it matters.
Hey guys, can you hear us?
Let me.
Patrick, Andrew, hello. So Patrick, your reign of terror has come to an end by the way of the Enchantress.
Oh my! I think I made a mistake with my deck choice.
I think you did too. Tell us a little bit about why you decided to pick Oath.
Well, so I played a round or 2 with Andrew with my other deck versus his Squee deck, and it seemed like he has 2 really grindy decks, and I don't think either of mine grind as well. So I didn't think I was favored going in, and I think he did a really good choice banning the Vice, the Artifact Burn deck, because I think that was my only chance in this matchup was to kind of race him. And
yeah.
It did not go well.
Yeah, that draw go was great because the Miri's Guile, I saw an Enchantress come, so I capped it until I saw an enchantment. But when I saw that, I saw the 3rd Enchantress, and I was like, I've got to see if I can just hold out another turn.
Okay.
So I could sequence it in such a way that I'd get 2 off the Wild Growth to draw me into another enchantment when I could draw 3. was telling Patrick, I think that's the first time I've ever had 5 draw effects on Enchantress.
Yeah, that
Any
makes
variant I've ever played.
that makes sense when you say
It's
that.
my
Like when
first
we were
time for that.
looking at the sequence of plays, we were just thinking you just didn't have anything on top of with the Mirror's Guile. But I guess you're kind of saving it for the situation where you needed to go off all in like one turn.
Sorry, guys, I muted you.
Oh, I was just saying that at first we thought your Mirror's Guiles were just missing completely, but it sounded like you were saving up for one big turn.
Yeah.
Well, I was sandbagging I thought the exact same thing. I was sandbagging. I had 2 naturalizes in my starter, and then I found another third one, and I was like, I don't need to hit this Guile. I don't need to hit this Exploration. I'm waiting for the good stuff.
Yeah.
But, it seems like that was a mistake in retrospect.
I mean, it's definitely like, I think I think your line makes sense because it's like, that's especially the way that I interpreted what Andrew's hand was, is his hand is weak, that he just relied on those 2 cards and was hoping to draw one of the, like, I guess it would be 3 Argothian Enchantress, 4 Enchantress Presence, or 4 Living Wish, and that's a lot of cards. So I think it's like reasonable to think like his hand is weak, and you're just saying I'm going to save it for the action card that he does draw.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't cycle my 2 lands either because I ended up having a Wrath of God and a Humility. So if I cycle them just to get cards and I don't get those white sources, then I can't even cast the Haymakers that I did have in my hand. So that's why I had to keep the 2 cards out there.
Yeah, when I had 1 and that's all I could do, but I had like 6 mana at that point, so playing Drago seemed like the right play, not to drop 1 and have who knows what show up to the party.
Yeah, there's not that many situations where Patrick can really even punish you for the games going long.
Yep.
And I felt too with his Squeebind deck, like it has a lot of trouble removing permanents. So if he does, like, he just needs 2 or 3 enchantments to really start to get going, and I can't counter everything that comes up.
Yeah.
So I thought I could maybe try to get a Phantom to Show out there to throw in a few hits. I was unsuccessful.
Spike Weaver, damn you.
Damn it. 1 out of 3.
What did you decide in? Anything fun?
Oh, it's just humilities, my second Wrath, and yeah.
That's why I was like, if I stop this turn, I'm gonna be really screwed if I didn't hit on that. Like when I played the 3rd Enchantress and played the Guile or whatever, I was like, if I just hit land, I'm just gonna be so screwed.
Oh yeah, I would have been very happy.
But I only hit like 2 lands out of like that, I don't know, 20 plus I drew, so I was lucky in that respect.
Andrew, what did you side in? Just the Seal of Cleansings, or did you side anything in?
I sided in Elephant Grass just because it's cheap and it would slow down his ability to do other stuff. Because he'd pay 2 mana to attack, but that's 2 mana that he couldn't put another permanent on the board. So working towards a bounce effect when you want them to have the least amount of permanents on board.
Mm-hmm.
So making him tap 2 seemed like, okay, that'll keep a sphere off the table or something for a turn. Brought a Tormod's Crypt in just because I know how to work with Guy's Blessings.
Yeah, you know how it works, eh?
Yeah, I was just hoping if I drew it was going to be like, blessing, I'm like, game over! If you had 2 before a creature, oh, that would hurt so bad.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fair enough. Any final thoughts on the match, guys?
I'm very happy I might not have to play against Enchantress again.
Yeah.
Well, I'm no longer going to be a 007 agent, so.
Yeah, well, yeah, congratulations on your first win.
Yeah, congrats, Andrew.
Technically,
Better luck next week, Patrick.
Technically, he's undefeated, so.
Yeah!
So
Ooh.
I think so. I guess I think Jared's undefeated as well. So.
That's true. I think he's 201.
He's 201.
Yeah. So. But yeah. All right, cool. Well, thanks, guys, and we will see you both next week. So Flint and I are going to stick around, and we're going to do a little bit of post-game analysis, and there's a few things I want to chat about. But we would like to thank our players for giving us some insight of how they boarded and their thoughts for the match. So thanks you guys.
Sure thing, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Later.
So I am going to jump over to our screen where we are going to talk a little bit about our players. I have to update and get the new players in. These are the players from Monday. So let me add, let's see, we had Jared. This doesn't seem to be working the way I want it to, so I don't know if this is going to work.
Patrick jumping into chat. Mistakes were made in deck selection. Perhaps, yes.
Okay.
Live and learn, or lose and learn.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about Jared. So Jared and David were the first match earlier tonight, and so kind of it seems to be the consistent thing of people playing starting around 1994. So that's when Jared got his first Magic.
Mm-hmm.
His favorite Premodern deck is a proactive strategy, which I can get behind. I think that's kind of, I mean, I will definitely play a variety of decks and deck strategies, but I think the ones that I enjoy the most are ones that I think proactive is probably the best way. Like, I like aggressive decks in the sense of I like putting the onus on the opponent to do something. That's the kind of Magic I think I enjoy the most, but I will play whatever. But yeah, I think from what I know about Jared, it seems like every deck that he's played fits under this idea of a proactive strategy.
Yeah, and you definitely see that in the decks he likes to play. I mean, he likes to play goblins. He likes to play Sly. Even the combo-ish decks he plays are very proactive with, Stifle Knot and Hermit. That totally makes sense.
So his favorite thing about Premodern is that it is an incredibly balanced format, and yeah, I mean, the format's existed for a while, and it has only like really grown in the last few months. So I don't know if the increase of players will change our opinion of that. We'll kind of consolidate it, but right now we just see a huge variety of decks and a lot of them doing well. There's not, I think there are a set of decks that are a little bit more consistent or better than the others, but there are just so many decks that do well, and I think that really contributes to having a well-balanced format.
Agreed.
His favorite food is cheeseburgers, which I can get behind, I guess. I feel like I enjoy trying like different hamburgers, I guess, from different places, but I'm a simple man, so I don't know. But
You like your steak well done, and your burgers cheesed.
I might be causing a riot, but I think steak's overrated, but I don't know.
Oh, Mike Arnold's not in the chat.
So
The gauntlet's been thrown.
yeah. Hard rock is his favorite music genre. I don't know. I don't have anything to add for that. So his favorite video game is Zelda. Oh, go ahead. You wanted to talk about
I
hard
was just
rock?
gonna say, I'm just wondering, from what era, if he's like a '70s kind of classic rock, or if he borders more into the maybe the metal of the '70s, or the harder rock, or excuse me, of the '80s.
I mean,
hard rock is one of those genres that's been around forever, but I think had its heydays in the '70s, I would say.
So Zelda Ocarina of Time is a classic one. I actually, I played a little when I was younger, but I watch it like speed runs on it every now and then too, and it's one of those games where if you ever watch it be speed runned, I don't know if that's the correct conjugation, but it's interesting to watch. There's some few glitches that you can take advantage of, but it's pretty cool.
It was good, but I have to agree with Robin in chat here. I think A Link to the Past is the greatest Zelda game ever made. Ocarina of Time was amazing, but Link to the Past is just solid and groundbreaking.
I would say Ocarina of Time was more groundbreaking in terms of it was like one of the first like 3D games, or really good 3D ones. But the soundtrack of Ocarina of Time is just hands down. Like good. I think it's the best music soundtrack of anything.
Ooh, I would debate you there, but that's fine.
What do you want to throw into the ring?
I think Chrono Triggers was better.
Okay.
But that's just me.
All right. That's reasonable, I guess. I thought you were going to say something like a series where it'd be like Final Fantasy series, but I guess I'm not as into Final Fantasy, so I can't speak as much of them, but I'm just talking about not just Zelda music in general, but I just mean the soundtrack from Ocarina of Time. I think is really really strong. Gerudo Valley is my favorite.
Moving on. Moving on.
All right. Most memorable
Welcome.
Magic game is the time he lost when he had 3 Jackal Pups and got earthquaked. So I don't know how much that earthquake was, but it dealt 4 times X to Jared, whatever X was. So I'm pretty sure that would deal a lot of damage. All right. Let's go to David. So he started playing in 2000. So relative to everyone else, that is more of a newcomer. But 2000 would be around Invasion or Odyssey, I believe. So definitely a sweet time to get playing. But his favorite deck is Draco Blast or Draco Explosion. And
The deck he'll never get to play in
Yeah.
the Showdown series.
Yeah. And yeah, and that's he burst onto the scene. I don't know if it was his actual first monthly, but it's definitely the first time I remember seeing his name. But he just won the tournament
Yep.
with that deck. So if you ever want to deep dive into the Draco Explosion deck, David was on the pre-podcast with Andrew, Jared, and Mike Harris, and they talk about that deck. So if you're interested, because you might not get the chance to see it in action on the Premodern Showdown series, but if you want to deep dive on it, check out that podcast. His favorite food, he's not sure. It's either watermelon or grapes. So yeah, that's different take in terms of, I feel like that's more of a side dish as compared to a main course, what everyone else picked. His favorite music is either classical or classic rock. So
Can respect that.
so
A lot of, classical guitarists were trained classically in guitar. And I believe, does David play the guitar as well? I feel like I've seen in his profile picture, one of his pictures, that he's got a guitar.
yeah, I was gonna say that. I think I've seen photos with him in a guitar, but I don't know for sure.
Very cool.
So how familiar are you with the Final Fantasy series?
It's very. So
Okay.
I actually spotted the triple triad cards that he was
Okay.
using as tokens in one of the matches. And I just played Final Fantasy VIII again about 4 or 5 months ago, played back through it.
Is 8 that popular version? I thought 7 was like usually the classic go-to of like this is the best Final Fantasy.
It really depends on how old you are and how much you want to, die on, your Final Fantasy hill. But 8 actually gets a hard time. A lot of people hated 8 because of the combat system and the junctioning system in it. Again, I won't bore our viewers, going a deep dive here, but people tend to prefer 6, 4, 6, 7. It really just depends on when they entered the genre. But 6 is my favorite, but 7 is probably the most groundbreaking for its time. But that's probably a debate that we could have ad nauseum.
All right. We'll talk about Patrick. So he says he first started playing Magic in M13. He says sorry. So that's very Canadian of him to apologize. So there's nothing to be ashamed of starting Magic at any one point. Like it doesn't matter. I'm happy that anyone plays. Like you don't have to play Premodern for nostalgia. If you just enjoy the format for the way that the cards work, or if you just enjoy it because you can pick one deck and then like not have to change it because it's a non-rotating format, or whatever reason you're getting the format, there's no reason to apologize for just starting to play in M13. So
and I don't know if Patrick's still in chat, but would it be sorry or sorry?
Yeah.
How would you pronounce that if you're Canadian?
And so his favorite deck is the deck that you just saw, so Green White Oathtron. So that's, I don't know if that was the first time that he entered into the Premodern Monthly, but I think he made the top 8. It might have been top 16, but top 8 or top 16 with his Green White Oathtron, which was basically, to my knowledge, it was his creation. I mean, I hadn't seen a list that was like that before.
Yeah, it was actually really interesting. Patrick, if you're still listening, Mike, Hoip, and I were testing Tron, and we were testing an older version of it, and it just wasn't working very well. And we were like, "Oh man, Tron is not very good in Premodern." And then I think you posted your list, and you were like, "Hey, I'm trying this out. We'll see how it goes." And we had just had the conversation about how we didn't think it was very good, and then you made top 8 with it. So we stood corrected, certainly.
Yeah, so his favorite thing is cards that are broken in other formats are just okay here. So, I mean, I guess I'm trying to think perfect examples of those, but I definitely,
Tinker.
Sure. I mean, you could even say like Oath of Druids. I mean, like, in other formats they're going to be a lot more devastating when you trigger Oath as compared to
Survival of the fittest.
sure.
Oh yeah, it's pretty cool. We get to play with, Lotus Petal, Dark Ritual, Lion's Eye Diamonds, Survivals, Tinkers, some of these cards that are broken with other formats. But yeah, they're okay. They're pretty good.
His favorite food is steak tartare. Is that how you say it? I don't actually know.
That is how you say it. Yes.
All right. I don't. How is that different than just like if I just said steak?
It's the way it's prepared. It's it's finely shaved or ground, I believe, but I've never actually had it. I'm not that cultured.
Well,
Hermit Druid, yes, it is played. It is a little broken in this format, but it's kept in check too.
So, EDM is his favorite music genre, so I can just see
EDM. Okay.
So whenever Patrick wins, right as he turns off the stream, he dances. He gets some EDM. And he gets the energy going. His favorite game, Diablo 2. Did you play a lot of that game?
I did.
Did someone else have this as their favorite? I remember talking to you about this, but I don't know if it came up in a different situation. But okay. So his most memorable Magic game was winning Old School tournament in Montreal. So kind of the predecessor to Premodern was Old School. So that's a format that Patrick's been involved in. So we got Flint beatboxing in chat.
That's right.
All right. Andrew started playing in Ice Age, so kind of around the time that most of the other ones. His favorite deck is Enchantress. I guess that I don't know if that necessarily, because we've seen him play Oath a lot lately, and I mean I don't know if there's like a fine line between Oath and Enchantress, but he labels Enchantress as his favorite deck. So.
And when he says Enchantress, it's like all versions. So Andrew's, constantly tinkering with Enchantress, and you never know which words card you're going to be up against, or if it's going to be solitary confinement or not. So he's well known for it. I might even say notorious for playing Enchantress.
His favorite thing about Premodern is playing all the different people. He's played out of 6 out of the 7 continents. So I know he's made posts before about trying to get someone on Antarctica. I don't know if that ever happened, but if you do, that would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty awesome.
His favorite food is his mom's chicken Kiev recipe. Okay. I'm assuming that's good. I don't know. So
I've never had it. I've just looked it up. It is a dish made of chicken fillet pounded and rolled out around cold butter, then coated with eggs and breadcrumbs, either fried or baked. So it's kind of like a schnitzel.
Like a breaded chicken,
Yeah.
All right. His favorite music genre is alternative. All right. So it seems like rock is the most popular genre in terms. I mean, I guess that's pretty broad in terms of everything, but a lot of people like different genres of rock. Any Final Fantasy game. So wonder if Andrew's weighing in of whether he likes 8 or 7 better. But all right.
I mean, it's got to be 7, but the controversial thing would be to say 8.
Okay, so his most memorable Magic game. I don't think I've read through this, so this is the first time I read it. Type 1. So he's playing Arabian Aggro, so that's an old school archetype. Turn 1, Taiga and Kirdape. Turn 2, draw. Play Taiga, Black Lotus. Attack. He Giant Gross, Berserk, and Fork. So he's got 2 forks. So the 5, 20 damage. And okay, so those were multiple 1-ofs, so
that ape has gone berserk.
Yes, definitely. That's one thing I forget about, that Kirdape is not legal in this format.
No, it was revised. Was the last edition, or was it just Arabian Nights? Was it
no, it was in revised.
It was in revised, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just gonna go to. There's one slide I wanted to go. Let me see if I can manually. I don't know if I can. Well, I guess I'll start talking about it when it comes up. Oh, here we go. The Fall Brawl. So this is a tournament that I am hosting. I'm going to be the TO for. Andrew gets to take a month off of the monthlies. We would like to thank Andrew for all the work that he does for the monthly tournaments.
Thanks, Andrew.
But what it is it's very similar to the Premodern monthly tournaments, but we kind of like to try and make it a little bit different, and we try to experiment with different things and make it a little bit bigger and get people excited about it. So the structure of the tournament is a little bit different. That the pod play is going to start out and I think we've adapted this into the monthlies, and I'm not sure, Andrew can correct me if I'm wrong, but the first pod will be regionally based. So you are going to be playing people with relatively similar time zones. So previously you had the chance of being matched up with someone in Europe if you're in the States or in the Western Hemisphere, and there's that time zone difference. But for the first 4 rounds of the Fall Brawl, you're going to be guaranteed to be playing against someone in a local time zone. So you're going to have 4 opponents. You're going to play 4 rounds. It's the same structure where you have set opponents and you play at your own leisure, and you have to do it within a certain time window. You can see it when the slide comes up. And then after those 4 rounds are done, everyone completes their rounds, and then you get repaired, and you're going to be put into another group based on your current standing. So the people who are all 4-0 are going to be playing against people who are 4-0. So that's probably the biggest difference in terms of the pairing as compared to the normal monthly. So after that second batch, you're going to have 4 more rounds with people with similar pairing, with similar records, and then after that we're going to cut. And I'm not 100% sure if we're going to cut to a top 16 or a top 8. One thing I do know is if you have a record of X and 1, you are not going to be eliminated at that point, because I know with even with the spring fling, we only had, I can say only, at the time it was our biggest tournament, but it was 64 players, and we almost had people who were X and 1 and missing the top 8. So I'm going to make the saying of saying anyone who is X and 1 is going to move to the elimination rounds. I don't know exactly how it's going to look, because there might be a number of people, and it might just be a top 16, but no one is going to miss the cut if they're X and 1. The other things that I'd like to say is, so I'm not going to be playing in the tournament. I'm just going to be doing TO stuff. So that's going to allow me to do different things. One thing that we're going to require is you're going to have to submit your deck list at the beginning with registration. That's going to allow me to release a little bit of information. I know I tried to do that for the spring fling, and I kind of just lost track of time. Part of the reason was I collected the deck lists after the tournament, and it took a lot more time than I wanted. So deck lists are going to be required when you register. And then the other thing is you're going to have the opportunity to, if you want to, if you and your opponent agree, you can record your match like via whereby, or maybe some other means will work. And then send me the video of your match. And then I'm going to basically kind of do something similar of what Flint and I do in terms of doing commentary on a match. It won't be live because we want people's deck lists to be hidden. And the person I'll be casting with will also not be a player of the Fall Brawl. So you don't have to worry about a competitive advantage for someone. And then I'll be posting those to my YouTube channel after the tournament's done. So it might be just an interesting thing if you kind of want to see what commentary on your match, or kind of get some constructive criticism, or just it just provides me to get some content out there for my YouTube channel. So that's another thing that'll be featured with the Fall Brawl. Is there anything, Flint, can you think of any questions, or chat, do you guys have any questions about the Fall Brawl right now?
I don't think so. I think that's a nice overview, and certainly more details will come on the Premodern online monthly, Facebook page as we get closer to that time. But looking forward to seeing it. Spring Fling was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the one thing I guess I didn't specifically say, though I kind of alluded to it, is while it is starting towards the end of September, like so after the monthly is scheduled to be done for the pod play, that's kind of when it picks up, but it will go all the way through October. So we're not having the traditional October online monthly. The Fall Brawl takes the place of that. Moving on, there's one other thing I wanted to comment. The slide that came up that was talking about a giveaway that we have. So the Mythic Society had provided the opportunity to give away $20 in store credit to their store. So next Wednesday, if you're in the chat, we're going to set up a poll, and we're going to pick a random winner, and they're going to win $20 of store credit to the Premodern or to the Mythic Society. So we're excited, and we would like to thank them for the support of the stream. And it's a cool way. If you guys hadn't read the slides, they provide a number of online tournaments. You need to be subscribed to their Twitch channel to play, but beyond that, it's free. And there are Premodern tournaments twice a week on Wednesdays and Fridays. But then there's also different formats. If you're involved in other formats on Magic Online, they have other tournaments with a similar setting. As long as you're subscribed to their Twitch channel, you can play in those. So pretty cool opportunity, and it's cool to have support from the Mythic Society. Is there anything you wanted to add? Other than that, I was going to wrap it up. I guess.
Go ahead.
I was to say I'm going to bring up the schedule for that shows our players on Monday, but
yeah, that was going to be the only thing that I was going to suggest. Is just with the upcoming matches, and then I think we're good to wrap up.
Yeah. So tonight we saw Jared versus David and Patrick versus Andrew, but next week we have Mike Harris against Patrick, and then our second match of the evening would be Michael Arnold against Andrew. So 2 returning players and 2 of the ones that played on Monday. So we would like to thank everyone who was able to tune in. Thank you for participating in the chat, supporting the stream with bits, subscriptions, follows. Thank you, everyone. And other than that, we will hope to see you on Monday. But in the meanwhile, take care, and thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.